It might just be me, but do you remember Adventure Quest Worlds, or literally any of the Flash games Ardix Entertainment was putting out in the mid to late 2000s? My favorite was a toss-up between Dragon Fable and MechQuest. By no means were these games revolutionary, but there was a charm to them that I'd like to elaborate on while talking about something else. So without further ado, my name is Ice, and this is Dauntless. To what I was referencing prior, Phoenix Labs, the developer, has essentially managed to recapture AQW's essence in this title. This essence isn't exactly founded on delivering a concise story or anything akin to the majority of games I've talked about, but it does pose an interesting attraction that I think anyone could appreciate. But before any deeper thought, let's first cover the technicals. Dauntless is incredibly compact, demanding only a staggering 16 gigabytes. It'll fit and pretty much play on anything. Shit, while my computer was out, I was playing it on my Xbox One, which must be nearly a decade old, and it ran poorly. But I'm on PC now, yet still there have been intermittent issues, though far less frequently than the Xbox One. Usually only in the form of crashing. As for perceivable performance related problems, FPS drops on the Xbox One occurred during moments of bursting particle effects or spawning enemies, while on PC I've experienced nothing of the sort. It is live service, free, and it's been around for a couple years now, but it's currently staring down the barrel of a 2.0 update that'll reportedly overhaul the main game mode as well as the current weapon system. So that's promising, as things might improve, not only technically, but mechanically. So let's start looking at what this game does. And honestly, as for what I normally talk about, being the experience of games and the endearing qualities that makes you remember a title years down the line, this game doesn't have that. As a matter of fact, my overall rating is pretty whatever, but that quality doesn't entirely explain the package. Dauntless has some serviceable fixtures, mostly permeating from a concise art style and a thoughtfully crafted weapon system, though as a free-to-play live service game, there is tedium that I'd like to explain first. There are so many fucking menus. It's a bit of a double-edged sword because at the same time it introduces the prospect of so much content, but it's also incredibly overwhelming and daunting to navigate this, especially coming into it as a new player, not only to Dauntless, but this genre. There are tons of different screens and things you constantly have to flip through and familiarize yourself with. Things that'll catch your eye and inadvertently perform gaming's gravest sin: wasting time. Within these menus, there's script that points you to different places or asks you for different things, whether it be the completion of another quest, the fulfillment of a node in your Slayer's path, or sifting through the copious crafting options, which is great, only to be hit with unfamiliar items originating from a litany of places, devolving the gameplay loop at times into a shopping list. It's not quite as direct as your general fetch quest, instead asking you to recall what parts of a behemoth's body you need to focus on, leading to a natural familiarity between you and the various locales you'll frequently visit, called hunting grounds. And honestly, despite the mass quantity of menus, as a new player, all you'll generally need to interact with is hunting grounds, shops, and bounties. The nice thing is, the perceived complexity is overstated. The gameplay loop while falling into a shopping list has the inherent benefit of being understandable. Once you find out that most of what you need to consider is weapon levels, and those levels come from completing bounties that you finish from doing hunts, the time you initially wasted becomes far more efficient. Having now been faced with this uncomfortable clutter, slowly taming it has been very rewarding, and the nice thing is, most of every quest I've found isn't timed, and even the battle pass is pretty lame, so I don't even want it. This quality is incredibly important, because I don't want to feel pigeonholed into playing a game because of some badass cosmetic becoming unavailable in 2 weeks, while I'm sitting here craving Hollow Knight or something. Dauntless does a great job respecting the player, especially as a free live service game. The reason I'm mentioning all this in relation to menus is because this is your point of contact with all of the content in this game. There's nothing more mind-numbing than awful menus or UI. It's why I can barely stand playing 343's Master Chief Collection, because those dumb challenge stickers pop up every 30 seconds and look terrible and stick around way too long. I'm not even going to get in depth about how Garbaggio Starfields is, and I'm not fit to lie, this one is pretty bad. especially on controller, but only because they show you so much shit that just doesn't matter. If this was further condensed or even trimmed literally between two categories, essential and extra, I'd have nothing to complain about, other than the clutter of the UI because you can't hide quest objectives. There is a notable lack of features that disable these extraneous things or even dim their appearance. Maybe I'm stupid and missing something, I wouldn't take it off the table, but of course, this isn't the end-all be-all. And honestly, complaining about menus is generally going to come off as nitpicking. So, what about the important stuff? I love the art style. I think Phoenix Labs did such a great job crafting well-designed monsters, armor, and weapons related to them, and the environments, while being themed on the presiding elements, stays grounded and within the context of the world presented. Some may say this is a minor detail, but we care about visuals. If what we're playing doesn't look cool to us, why would we engage with it? This was obviously a prominent concern coming into Dauntless, and generally is for any game, at least ideally it should be. Think about the dissonance one feels when you're jumping across rooftops and scaling ornate towers in Constantinople, only to return to the same series however many years later to be introduced to England that supposedly really loved circus stunts, pinning countless ropes between every building. It looks and feels ridiculous to exist within, because it's now less about historical revisionism and more about making locales as farcical as possible for the purpose of catering to gameplay in a less than meaningful way. Phoenix Labs understood their assignment. They wanted to make something light on machines and founded on fantasy, an easy to understand art style that doesn't seek to shock, but instead satisfies by enabling players to whip the very ass off of monsters as they slowly get stripped for parts to become fashion. Fashion that you can readily understand how it was made out of what was used. It's cool. And what's cooler is the weapon system. Akin to Cyberpunk, how there are 6 disciplines and you can level them separately while they each cater to maximizing certain playstyles, Dauntless also follows suit. But, in my opinion, in a far more engaging and intuitive way. There are 7 different weapon classes: swords, hammers, axes, pikes, chain blades, strikers, and guns. Each one has their own level and XP, as well as their own unique combos. This game has a move list. It's not inherently deep or even too important, as even I fall into button mashing pretty often. Thankfully, there's only 2 buttons that you can mash, but otherwise there's also defensive measures such as shields, dodge rolling, and these 2 neat tools called the Lantern and Omnicell. Both of these give you an additional command you can use, tied to a cooldown, and its effects can vary, ranging from a timed explosive, a shield made of swirling stones, or a literal javelin of ice. It plays very well into the min-max style of ARPG loadouts, allowing the player to fully command a custom build that can effectively neutralize any danger you may face. One that I came up with recently was just a balls-to-the-wall shield and crit chance build. Pretty much my Lantern applies a shield to me, my armor and weapon mods boost the amount of shield I receive by a percentage, while other mods I possess grant me critical strike chance based on the amount of shield I actively have. And now you may be questioning, mods! Yes, you can even mod your weapons and armor, freely too. It doesn't consume the mod or lock it into that specific item. If it's not actively equipped in the loadout that you're currently using, then you can re-equip it as you see fit. This allows so much variety, and again, as I expressed earlier, it fosters a natural familiarity where you actively experiment with different weapons, armor, mod combinations, lanterns, or omnicells. It's rewarding, and it prevents content from ever feeling too stale, which happens to be my biggest praise. Not because of its volume or sheer quality, but because of its nature. This game was meant to be played with friends. It is an always online title, and from what I've seen, in every hunting ground map, you're liable to find at least 3 to 4 randoms to beat up behemoths with. Still, nothing beats getting on a call or texting in party chat with someone you're familiar with as you slash through baddies. Though, that much can be said for any game that allows co-op. There's just a magic about it. But there's an even better, sweeter air when the format it's placed within works. Not to come after anyone, but I'd never subject myself or a friend to the miserable grind of a game like New World, an MMORPG founded on the philosophy that more time played means the game is good. Oftentimes, I only play online games because I'm bored. I prefer single player forever and always, as I find much of the online content to be far too inaccessible due to insane time requirements, or just visually disgusting and pointless like operators in COD. Why do those cost money? In very few instances has an online game tantalized me to the point I actually played them for pleasure, being a very short list. Destiny 1, which I believe is the best looter shooter of all time, RuneScape, my favorite MMO and one of my childhood games, and a game I mentioned earlier, Adventure Quest Worlds. Oh my god, the chokehold that game had on 11-year-old me. I literally bought like merch for it that unlocked paired in-game items. The delusion of grandeur I had for this game was immense. I loved AQW, and after reflection, it's nothing special. Yet, I found so much pleasure in the gameplay loop. That being leveling and mastering a class while completing their associated reputation missions. You'd go boss to boss, sometimes with groups of people, all of you with unique classes that emphasized certain playstyles and allowed you to either exploit or create weaknesses. It sparked budding camaraderie and also a sense of identity. Falling into a specific class in AQW's case, a specific weapon in Dauntless's, or a role in New Worlds is something that just naturally happens when you're posed this type of game. I've even expressed it before in my Dark Souls 3 videos. I'm a sword guy. I love swords, specifically in Souls. In AQW, I used debuff-based classes, my favorite for a long while being the Card Clasher and Troll Shaman. In New World, I played as a tank and would often admonish I was the best tank. Then Dauntless, man, I love the hammer. And among that, you meet people that don't want to be like you, or you have friends that don't, leading to this synergy and unique dynamic. My friend, who I play Dauntless with, uses an axe pretty often. Both his weapon of choice and mine are incredibly slow, which led to me dubbing us Slow and Slower. While both ail from the same shortcoming, we also serve distinct purposes, mine being more defensive and founded on staggering the behemoth so it falls over, leaving it vulnerable, while the axe is more offensive based on explosive damage that often leads to cutting off behemoth parts, further aiding my ability to stagger. It's the potential of these dynamics that make the game so good. And the content, while I said isn't as complex as it initially seems, can still open up a substantial amount. Once you've settled and you've found your groove, you'll find yourself partaking in trials, seasonal events, and escalations among other things. They'll even introduce gimmicks, good and bad, but escalations in particular being a highlight due to it being characteristic of a stripped-down roguelite. This is a good thing, because one major grievance of any live service game is the content gets old and repetitive very fast. A more recent example of this was Halo Infinite. Its multiplayer was released hilariously flat and mundane, with what I assume is like 30 times the budget of whatever Phoenix Labs had, and delivered something over 10 times larger than Combat Evolved, only to be as varied and interesting as Space Invaders. Dauntless doesn't suffer this, experimenting within itself attributed to an intangible that should speak volumes. Dauntless is fun. True fun. It doesn't suffer from bloat because it doesn't care how much you play. Any core items they add to enhance gameplay is permanent. Drop the game for a year if you want. The next time you return, anything you'd abandoned will still be there, and maybe even more on top. That's how you make a f***ing online game. This is a slope that MLB The Show slipped down in the matter of 1 year, going from console exclusivity to another puke fest of FOMO tactics designed to make you invest financially and emotionally into a game that'll delete and reset all your save data by next year. Thank you, Phoenix Labs, and I hope this video gets more people to play Dauntless because I truly believe they deserve it. So now, for my opinion. I don't have much to describe. Dauntless is not an experience. Not like many of the games I've talked about prior. It's a video game, truly just a video game. this is not bad. And don't take my subsequent rating as a bashing or anything negative, because I do like this game. But I am realistic and honest. Dauntless is a 7.3 out of 10. Good, though it's far off of being great. It's nothing special. The weapon system is great, combat's good fun, there's plenty of stuff to uncover and master that keeps it from being too simple, but it also lacks the barriers that demand you master it. My friend has described it as brainless, and if that's how you'd like to play it, you absolutely can, and it won't hurt your time on the game at all. Dauntless is a rare example of a game that exists within its means. It doesn't try to spread itself too thin between many concepts, instead introducing those various ideas in offshoot modes that don't hurt the overall game. There are no throw-in features, and the ones that stick around in every mode are the absolute bare essentials and the most well-designed tidbits. I've had such a blast playing this modern game, and I'm especially grateful that it was at least barely playable on my rundown console, because how many games have come out recently that literally forego every bit of dated hardware? And the harrowing response of a Todd Howard stating you should just upgrade your parts sent such a chill down my spine that I just love. I'd love it to just violently shit all over Starfield, a wholly mediocre product that in my opinion deepens the backtracking of what made everything pre-Skyrim so good. A challenge-based perk system. It feels like I'm grinding f***ing camos on COD. What is this shit? Dauntless is a breath of air. Not fresh air, just air that doesn't stink or suffocate. Not every game is going to be generational, and above all, not every developer is trying to send a message with their product. There is passion here because it is fun. Someone, whether it be half the team or all of the team, enjoyed making this game. And because of that, I think you'd enjoy playing it. So give it a whirl. It's free, it's cross-platform, it's on all consoles, it's only 16 gigabytes, it can run on an Xbox One, and it's co-op. Grab a friend or just run with some randoms and enjoy. Thanks for watching. I am back. My PC is fixed. Well, no, it's not. I actually got a whole new one. The company ended up refunding me based on my protection plan, which gave me store credit that I flipped into a new computer. I should really build my own, but I'm too anal to not do research and make an extensive shopping list beforehand, so that's probably normal for a PC, but yeah, I should probably do that. I have a CyberPower pre-build, which I'll update the specs in my bio for. No idea how long this shit'll last, but it's covered for 2 years. Otherwise, yeah, not sure what video I'll do next, but I always appreciate you stopping by. And if you got this far and enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Hope you have a great day, evening, or night, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.